Hello, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be going through all of my training for October and just seeing if it was what I thought it was going to be, if I improved, if I stuck to my goals, and then seeing where we can go from there and try and increase for November and see the end of the year out. So let's start nice and simple. For October, my goal was basically just to recover. I had kind of spent the last few months training for a half marathon, and that was completed at the end of September. So I thought, let's kind of give October a little bit of a break, try and get a little bit more consistent with just running in general, and overall just recover and not seek out the next goal too quickly. You know, sometimes you're just like always going through different goals and you're never really taking time to just sit and feel comfortable with where you are. So that's what I decided to do in October. In terms of keeping my training in with that goal, I didn't really do very many sessions, so most of the running that I was doing was just kind of group running, just running a distance and not really thinking about any intervals or anything like that. I also kind of got out the old stationary bike and was doing a few more sessions on that each week, as well as trying to incorporate some kind of like body weight strength routines just to help with building up muscle, and hopefully eventually that will help me get a little bit stronger in running as well. Obviously might not work out as planned, it might have just been a waste of time, but otherwise I've just done it. I've only been doing like 20 minutes, something like that, not very much, all very light and gentle, so I doubt it will have much improvement, but it's something and it's better than nothing. Total mileage for October was 160.5 kilometres, so 100 miles basically, and it falls into like just over 5k a day or 40 kilometres every week, and kind of like my random picked out number was to do 40 kilometres a week. Whilst I didn't do that like every week, it's nice that the averages come out and it has come to be 40 kilometres, so it means that like obviously I think during like the first half of the month I probably wasn't hitting that 40, but then as the time's gone on throughout the month I have been overshooting, well not overshooting but like going over the 40k, and that's kind of made up for it, which is quite nice. I thought I'd also pull my cycling stats as well, because I've been obviously on the trainer a little bit more, and so the stats for that were 444 kilometres for the whole month. That includes some commutes and getting to club and just generally getting around on my bike, which is quite nice. That worked out as 111 kilometres a week. I don't really cycle to like have any gains or anything, like I don't really do any intervals or hard sessions on the bike. It's just taking over, getting something done, getting something in your legs, so it's almost like a really easy run just with less stress on your body. I think that's been working out all right for me. It doesn't really seem to fatigue me that much doing that kind of session on the bike. So sometimes I'll do that on a Wednesday, I'll do a little session in the morning on the bike, and then in the evening I'll do like the run, and I don't really see any performance kind of like deficits. If anything, if I do a big bike session, if I'm going like really far, that's when I'll see the drops. Maybe if I do like 2 hours on the bike in the morning and then a run in the evening, that's where I'll feel really tired. But I haven't been doing that. I've just been keeping it nice and light. Everything's been about an hour, nothing too far and nothing too hard. I think I did a couple that were like up a hill, but they were a bit like shorter. Right, so moving on to the third section of kind of like my monthly roundup, we're just going to go through my favourite session. So usually this will be the session that I've completed during the month that I felt was really good for me. Maybe it pushed me, maybe it might have been hard, maybe I felt really good whilst I was doing it. But this month there was only one, so that's the one we've got to go for. Luckily it was one that I felt like I achieved, and I did it quite well, but I managed to get it done, and that kind of surprised me because I didn't think I would be able to do it, and I managed to do it pretty consistently as well. So the session was 8 times 400 meters with about a 1 minute rest in between every single one of those reps around the track. So I ran pretty much all of those 400 meters in a pace that equates to a 4 minute per kilometer pace. The first one I did was like 350 minutes per kilometre pace, and then everything else was about 355 to 402. That was kind of the round number that we were getting to. In the fourth sprint, the fourth rep, so this is the one where I felt like I probably wouldn't be able to complete the whole session, I was a little bit slower, so I did that in 410 minutes per kilometre pace, which still isn't slow, it's still quite quick, but the amount of effort that I put on for that fourth one, it didn't really feel like it paid off when I got around, and it was slower than all the 3 others I had already done. But I thought, you know what, let's just push on. Sometimes this happens, sometimes some of the first earlier ones are slower just because you're not completely warmed up, and I guess that's kind of what happened. So after that, reps 5, 6, 7 and 8 were all fairly consistent with what I had been doing. I think the only thing I did kind of regret from the session is not pushing out another one, like doing 9 of them. As I was going home, I was kind of like, you know what, I probably could have done an extra rep because I wasn't feeling that tired, wasn't sore the day after, which, you know, it's not something you should be looking for. You shouldn't be looking to be sore the day after, but it felt like I probably could have pushed it a little bit harder, done one more without sacrificing any form or it being like a completely useless exercise. I feel like quite a lot of the shorter sessions I kind of prefer, so the ones where we're not doing long reps. I think it's just because it's easier to be like, okay, it's just this, that's all we're doing. So for 400, it's just one lap of the track and you're done. You don't have to think about anything extra. You're not having to count 2.5 laps or anything like that. So that's quite nice. I think also in terms of like me, sometimes I do just stop. I do just walk a little bit. So having it broken up into set structured bits is quite nice. Obviously it's not very representative of a race that you might do because you're probably going to want to keep going. So probably the longer reps for that are more beneficial for replicating the race environment, but I do think short sessions do have a good base in terms of like turnover of those legs, getting going and making sure you can hit that speed, even if it is just a shorter rep. And obviously over the time you can reduce that recovery rate down so they can piece them all together. Right, on to races this month. So I only did one race this month, and that was actually on the last Sunday, so few days ago now. It was called the Tavy 7, so it was 7 miles kind of around Tavistock near Dartmoor, so you're going through the lanes around the countryside. It was very nice. The route was really well marshalled. We had a water stop just before 2 miles, which then when you looped back was just before 6 miles. Yeah, that's right. Just before 6 miles. It was the same water stop, so same people handing out water and things like that, and that's all it was just water, which is fine. I think for 7 miles you don't really need too much more than just a bit of water. The weather was a little bit crazy, so before we started we kind of had every single season. It was sunny, it was windy, then we had rain, then we kind of had like a little hailstorm, and then it cleared up again. Luckily managed to stay pretty dry throughout the whole run. Didn't start raining again until after we had finished. That was nice, and I managed to do that race in about 55 minutes, so I'll put the exact race time just down below. And yeah, I was quite happy. It meant that I did the whole race in under a 5-minute pace, and I feel like around 5 minutes is kind of my race pace at the moment, and that's what I'm not really trying to stick to it, but it is what's happening. I've been finding like my 5Ks at parkrun have been getting a little bit faster than that. They've been getting to around a 4:40 pace, but I figured this one was a bit longer. I don't want to be bashing it out for the first half and then just really suffering on the second. However, saying that, I did struggle a little bit near the end because I put on waterproof socks, so they were a little bit thicker than normal socks, and my shoes that I was wearing are quite thin, and having kind of wide feet, it just meant that they were kind of rubbing. And so I had to take off one of my socks just to give myself room in the toe box. So I ended up running like the last mile and a bit with just one sock on. But it worked. I wasn't complaining about my foot anymore. I just kept going, and that stopped irritating me. So definitely, if you do have a little complaint and you think actually you can fix that really easily, just do it, because if not, you're going to keep thinking about it, and it is eventually going to slow you down even further. So I'm quite glad I did that, even though I had to like obviously take off my shoe, retie it. I'm glad I did it, because it did then mean that I wasn't stopping every like 200 meters to like wiggle my foot to make sure I could still feel it. I just was able to just keep running from then on, and then get in a time that was kind of good. I think I was 7th female in overall, which is pretty nice. I was 3rd in for our club. which meant that I went into the female team for the team prize from the Tavy 7, and we came second in that overall. And then also that race counted towards the Devon County Cup. So for the females, there's a female Ross Shield, which hasn't been going too long, and that only counts the first 3 ladies in. So I was in that team as well, and we came second in that too, which was quite nice. So I've got a little extra medal for Devon County Cup, and I've also got a little shield for the Tavy 7. Overall, I think the only thing I would have changed from that race is just my socks. I think I would have put on some different socks because I didn't need waterproof. It didn't rain in the end. I just felt like a numpty in them. I did get a stitch kind of in my ribcage. It's kind of something that happened before, and I don't really know how to get rid of it, but that's definitely something to look out for because it has happened again since that race. So I think it might just mean that I need to warm up my sides a little bit more before I start running, because it can get quite painful and you have to keep trying to massage it so you can keep going without being too painful. So goals for November. I've got one race planned for November. It's about mid-November, so not long really to train for it. And I think overall my goal is just getting some more hills and elevation, because I have been terrible with that kind of side of training at the moment. I was supposed to be doing some in October, but basically life got in the way, didn't it? Pretty much every time I had one of them sessions scheduled in, I had to go to the dentist, or we went out somewhere, or it was just chucking it down with rain. I did one tiny hill session on the treadmill, but it's not the same as a real hill, is it? Obviously you get to control the speed, you get to control the actual gradient on a treadmill, and it's never going to happen that perfectly out in real life, is it? So I definitely want to try and get in more elevation, maybe not necessarily get in more speed. I just literally want to be able to get up a hill without stopping to have a little walk. And then that will also put me in good stead for the race, hopefully, because I know there is a couple of what's been deemed killer hills in this race. So I just want to have a little bit of perseverance and mental fortitude to get up that hill without stopping, knowing that it is possible and that I can do it. So that's all about my month. Why don't you write down below what your mileage total is and what was your favourite run or session that you did this month, so that we can have a little look, maybe even steal some ideas from you. All right, see you soon.